Let's remember after the shield attack, and when Sam thought his dear friend Frodo was dead, Sam held the ring. In fact, one can say he wielded it in order to complete the quest. The ring tempted him, but where others ignored the ring to come to its powers, he was able to resist, later returning the ring to Frodo. Samwise showed he had the traits to be worthy. All at once, integrity, determination, selflessness. Most of all, though, Sam Gamgee was the embodiment of the tree protector. As Frodo's friend, Sam was always at his side to protect and support him. At one point in the story, when all seem lost, even Frodo is about to give up. That is when Sam, as his friend, points out that though they face darkness and danger, they must try to succeed. Frodo asks, "Why should they go on?" Sam explains, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. Then the two continued and succeeded because of Sam's friendship and protection. Clearly, Sam could raise the hammer to protect and over his friends. We're now going to go on to other examples of characters which will exemplify those traits. The next person to speak will be Becca.
Thanks, Peter. So the second trait that we identified from last year is integrity. And really when I think about integrity, I think of following a core set of key principles that you set for yourself, and really doing right by those principles, even when no one's looking. Or maybe more importantly, when everybody is looking and expecting you to do something else. So a character that I think really represents this integrity is the Star Wars hero Ahsoka Tano. She's the former Jedi Padawan of one Anakin Skywalker, who you may know. Ahsoka is much like her former master, strong-minded and independent, and throughout her journey, she really found her own path and her own purpose throughout the Clone Wars, following the Empire's rise and leading up to the rebellion, as kind of a covert leader. With everything she went through, she really developed and stuck to her own set of key principles, her own sense of right and wrong, which really afforded her an ironclad integrity. Now, this is most apparent to me when she chose to walk away from the Jedi Order. True tests of integrity, I think, often force someone to choose between what's right but what's difficult and what's easy, both easy on themselves but also easy on the people that they love. Now, Ahsoka famously left the Jedi Order and her master behind after she was wrongfully accused of crimes that she didn't commit by the order that she put her trust in. Now, this situation really forced Ahsoka to realize that she needed to hold herself to a different standard that wasn't always going to be compatible with the dogma of the Jedi Order. And she chose to walk away and to find her own path. And she told Anakin, "I have to sort this out on my own, without the council and without you." So I think that Ahsoka's unfailing integrity makes her worthy. And now we have to go into leadership.
And that's mine. Hey guys, whoa, that is loud. Okay. Leadership. This is the trait that I see as most important, and I know it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday, but I'm going to need some audience participation with this one. If you could all please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I am a goddess, a glorious female warrior. I am a goddess, a glorious female warrior. Queen of all that I am. Enemies of fairness and equality. Hear my womanly roar. You may womanly roar. Yeah! So if you don't know who I'm talking about Leslie Knope from the NBC television show Parks and Recreation. Leslie Knope absolutely could lift the hammer. She's unique and strong in so many ways, and we're talking about leadership. She leads, she doesn't conquer. I also have that Funko Pop in my office. Major kudos. I love it. So her journey in Parks and Rec, she starts off as a low-level Parks Department employee in Pontiac, Indiana, but gradually moves up in her career because she has the qualities of a great leader and wants to make people's lives better, just like Thor did when he was in Sokovia. So I think about this in a couple ways. First, empowerment. Leslie empowers people. She believes in all the people that work for her and empowers them in different ways. So April, who's so apathetic and just doesn't want to be there, gets empowered in a different way than Tom Haverford does, for example, with Treat Yourself and all the businesses he runs. Leslie sees the good in everyone, no matter what. Also, her relationship building. Even when she doesn't share the same views as other people, she sees the value in those relationships. I'm thinking of her relationship with the GOAT, Ron Swanson. Despite their differences, there's a powerful influence in her life, and she embraces that in that relationship. She's also a helper. At the beginning of Parks and Rec, if you were able to make it through season 1, good for you. But when Ann Perkins comes up and says, hey, there's a pit by my house, my boyfriend fell in it and broke every bone in his body, can you help me? Leslie promises to help no matter what, even though it's a huge undertaking, that she's eager to make something beautiful out of nothing. And then trust. A leader has trust of the people that they are leading. They trust her to make decisions, but a good leader always consults around them before making a decision. She doesn't make those decisions selfishly. So, for all those reasons, I definitely think Leslie No Good with the hammer. And I will kick it to the next Chris, yes, to talk about selflessness.
Thank you, Melissa. I believe that Captain Christopher Pike of Star Trek Strange New Worlds exemplifies selflessness, which I believe is a trait that enables one to live Mjornir. You sat out the war because we lost the Klingons. We wanted the best of Starfleet to survive. And as this conversation makes clear, that was you and all you represent. These are the words from Admiral Cornwell and Captain Christopher Pike when he confronts her about why he was sent away while the war with the Klingons took place. I would agree with the Admiral, and further say that Captain Pike would be able to live Mjolnir because among the many traits that led Admiral Cornwell to make the statement is his selflessness. He is selfless when at the Klingon monastery in Borak, he learns his fate, a fate so horrendous it causes him to scream in horror. As he shares the spot, he does not just see it, he feels it. And he is offered the chance to walk away from this and avoid this fate, or take the crystal and accept it. What does he do? He walks away with the crystal, knowing that a fate worse than death awaits, so that life in the universe will continue. And while this news haunts him for months, he manages to use this knowledge that he isn't going to die as a practical lesson to save the inhabitants of Kali 279 from self-annihilation. It is his selflessness that I believe would enable him to live Mjornir. And now, on to my colleague Peter.
So now back to me. I'm going to talk about the next trait, which is self-worth. A necessary trait for any superhero, especially when, again, worthy to live the hammer. I'm going to put forward an obvious point for anyone who knows the character of Ellen Ripley. Ellen. We know that Ellen Ripley in the movies Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and finally Aliens Resurrection has all the traits. She portrayed, of course, one badass hero. Ripley shows the traits of leadership, self-sacrifice, protect integrity. But most of all, she is the embodiment of self-worth. Her confidence in her abilities and knowledge that she can, no must, get the job done against the scariest of monsters. I ask you, who was the sole survivor of a starship Nostromo after his investment with an acid-spitting, poop-killing alien? Ripley! And Josie, Ripley! Then, when rescuing the lost space colony, does Ripley panic along with a platoon of space marines who run scared at first signs of the xenomorphs? No. Who led the charge, risking her life to single-handedly save young Luke and stare down into the aliens? Ripley! Then, let's not forget the depressing, dark prison planet of Aliens 3. Okay, let's forget that one. But then in Achilles' resurrection, Ellen Ripley is resurrected as a half-human, half-alien with new powers and even more determination. Once again, once again, he has water than even a bunch of space pirates. Ripley! Believe it or not. Lift the hammer, heck, Ellen Ripley will eat the hammer for lunch if it means she must save the day. And last but not least, we have Lance.
So the last and certainly not least trait is determination. When I think of determination, I think that means in the face of what seems to be insurmountable odds, you persevere. And the person I chose for this had to persevere socially, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And that is none other than our favorite knucklehead ninja, Naruto Uzumaki. Now, when you think about, there it is. When you think about Naruto, he was born and instantly orphaned. So he's alone, he's by himself. He has to overcome. He was forced to be the vessel for the Nine Tails. They executed him, destroyed and wiped out the entire village, which makes him hated by everyone, but he was determined to be recognized. He had the most difficult time of every single person on Team 7 and probably everybody else in Indian school in trying to learn his jutsu. He said, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna keep my head down, I'm gonna figure it out, I'm gonna be that Sasuke guy. Speaking of Team 7, Sakura. He was determined to find love with Sakura, despite her curving him in every single turn and way. He said, no girl, you're gonna be mine. Maybe he didn't work out that way, but he was determined for it to happen. Probably the most difficult thing for him to learn was Sage Mode. And we saw that he needed Sage Mode to save the day at the end of the final arc of Naruto. That requires sitting still. If you know anything about Naruto, if you watch half of one episode, the act of sitting still and not being mischievous or running and fighting and kicking and biting and being a goofball is very difficult. So the fact that he was determined to learn Sage Mode because he knew that's what he had to do to save the village, he did it. And he was determined to fulfill his dream of becoming Hokage, which he was successful in doing. So Naruto Uzumaki, or Uzumaki Naruto, is the epitome of determination. And I think he can live Mjornir.
Thank you, man. So we have described for you what we believe as experts, what the traits are that makes Thor able to lift the hammer. But now we have a question to wrestle with. Can Thor still lift the hammer? But we're going to ask you that question. In fact, you will decide whether that question is yea or nay. Okay, we'll answer that question through a straw poll. But first, we have a little debate for you. We're going to argue yes and argue no by our panel of experts. We'll start off with Brenda.
As Court would say, kids, get your popcorn out and let's talk about Thor the Space Viking, a hero who is still worthy of the Mjornir. So let's talk through some of our traits. First of all, Thor is the consummate protector, not only of his own people, but of the humans he's come to love on Earth. And this still holds true. I ask you to think about Thor Ragnarok. Thor intentionally unleashes the fire-demon Surtur on Asgard, destroying his home to protect his people, whom he attempts to shepherd away, intentionally causing the catastrophe that he was striving to prevent, all for the greater good. He says, Surtur destroys Helheim, he destroys Asgard, so that our people may live. Second, Thor still has his strong sense of integrity. Again, think back to Thor Ragnarok. In a monologue to Valkyrie, he says, I choose to run towards my problems, not away from them, because that's what heroes do. Third, his self-worth is stronger than ever. He was worthy in ending as he was able to summon Mjolnir when he traveled back in time to Asgard. And he literally tells us, I'm still worthy. And in the Thor Love and Thunder trailer, we can see that he can still call Mjolnir to him. So can Jane Foster, but whether Thor continues to use Stormbreaker over Mjolnir is up to him. But it doesn't mean he's not worthy. So I say yes, Thor, still worthy. Team Thor.
to being the mightiest Avenger, sorry, Hulk. And let us not forget the Asgardians of the galaxy. He will lead a team even if it's not his. Natural born leader. He's got lots. But the true trait of a good leader is knowing when to lead and when to step back. And that was very, very apparent in his selfless decision to allow Valkyrie to be the leader of New Asgard. He could have easily stayed and decided to take up down and be the leader, but he knew, no, I'm not in the right place right now. Valkyrie is more than qualified, and she's the best person for this job. I want her to do it, despite her reluctance, because he exhibits leadership and selflessness. He was also determined. He's always been determined. From when he was determined to stop the destroyer armor, he was determined to hold the war. So sword could be forged. He was also determined to kill Thanos. Now, it took him a second chance. It's okay, you get a duo mulligan, just in case Thanos found a way to try to come back and do some more bad. What did he do? Wait for the gate. All right? The most important thing to think of is just because you are able to wield Mjornir doesn't mean that you will need to wield Mjornir. And I look at in the Love and Thunder trailer, I look at how he planted Stormbreaker in the ground and walked away. I interpret that as his decision to want peace, to want calm. He could have easily used his strength and taken over and been a conqueror, but no. We fought a good fight. I've gotten sling and trim, I've exercised, I've gotten rid of my trucker hat, got rid of the armor. However, I don't need to fight. Let's walk away. Let's finally find some peace. And that is why I believe that Thor was, is, and will be able to wield Mjolnir.
Well argued, well argued. I think what you can see, we are allowing you that would like you all to voice your opinion through your straw poll, so that you can please do. But now, some people disagree with these points. Chris, what do you think about all this?
Friends, these are all good arguments that were made, but I am here to argue that Thor is no longer worthy. Thor, Odin's son, is no longer worthy because he has cast off the mantle of leadership. Odin is dead, Freya is dead, and he is the rightful ruler of Asgard on Earth. But he walks away from his mantle of leadership, choosing instead to pass it on to Valkyrie. How many here have older brothers and sisters? At one point, maybe your parents went out and left your older sibling in charge. But they are not permanently in charge. They come back after a few hours because they have a responsibility to you. Thor just left. I would also argue that he no longer fits the ideal of a protector because in going off with the Guardians to find himself, he leaves his people without his protection. Is Valkyrie powerful in her own right? Yes. Could she protect them herself? Yes. But is she as powerful as Thor and can thus provide them with the same level of protection? No. The truth is, he leaves because he no longer believes he can protect them himself. And finally, as we have mentioned the incident with Thanos, his integrity has been compromised because he killed an unarmed Thanos in cold blood. When asked why he does this, his justification is a quip of, this time I went for the head. Yet there was no reason to do this because Thanos no longer had the stones, no longer was a threat, and had already been subdued by the other Avengers. The right thing to do was to take him away, put him on trial for his crimes, not take justice into his own hands at that moment. Therefore, his integrity is compromised.
I definitely would agree that Thor is no longer worthy. Now, we're talking a lot about MCU Thor, but I want to pivot a little bit to the comic book Thor. In the Unworthy Thor #5, Nick Fury whispers to Thor, Gore was right. And Thor says, Gore? Gore the God Butcher? He was right about what? And Nick Fury says, about everything. Gore suggested that all gods are unworthy of mortal admiration because they are selfish, uncaring, vengeful creatures who do not care about the subordinates that worship them. Thor, of course, rejects this claim, but when Nick Fury, who has this omniscient kind of aura, says that Thor was right, it hits Thor like an arrow to the heart. And Thor himself in that issue says, quote, "Gods are vain and vengeful creatures. We always have been. The mortals who worshipped us for centuries would be all better off without us. We gods do not deserve their love, no matter how much we fight to fool ourselves. We are all unworthy." Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence by Thor himself says he has no self-worth. He is unworthy. He has no determination. He admits that he is unworthy and is accepting of that defeat. And in the comics, War the God Butcher did put Thor through a lot of torture, and he was faced with that assumption that he was unworthy, as all gods are. And that is why Thor wants to butcher them all, Thor the God Butcher. In Thor Love and Thunder, I know we've only seen how many trailers, but we'll get to see the interaction play out. But for right now, with his lack of determination, his lack and own admittance of not being worthy, Thor is in fact unworthy. The defense rests.
So those who have voted, we now have the results. And the answer is 85% believe yes, he is still worthy.
For the defense, like at during endgame or post endgame? Like, 'cause I think it's a big difference.
Great question. We're going to have a little chance for you to talk a little bit more in just a second, so please hang on. But we definitely felt your opinions. We're going to now get ready to, whether or not you think Thor is ready or is unworthy. We also want you to think of a question, another question as well, which is, can villains become worthy? Can villains be worthy of the hammer? Everybody we're talking about so far has been the good guys. If the bad guys in the Marvel universe or elsewhere may well have those traits. We pose you that question now. Last year at our Awesome Con panel, exploring these same issues, someone raised the character of Thanos. Thanos. Think about it, he said. We may not agree with his motivations, but Thanos wanted to save people across the universe, though with a great eternal sacrifice. He portrayed self-sacrifice, leadership, determination, and so on. Good question. There's another thought. What about Loki? Though hardly a hero of integrity during the Marvel movies, through the Loki series this past year, I would argue they went through a redemption story arc that would make him worthy. But we want to have you all think about that. So start thinking about that. And we're going to have a little discussion about that. But first, while you're thinking, let's see, we're going to talk about a couple of villains that we believe are worthy. The first one we're going to start with will be coming from, what's that place? I'm sorry. Well, the first.
Wanda
first.
Wanda first.
Wanda first.
Archie first and Wanda.
So, I'm going to disagree with you and say that villain over there on the left-hand side is a villain. She can't let it go. No way. So, I can go through all the traits we talked about. Well, let's just focus on selflessness. She's literally the opposite of selfless. She is selfish. You understand? Yeah. She held an entire town hostage. Selfish. And whenever somebody got close to figuring out something was wrong, what did she do? Reset, fast forward another television decade, and still get them hostage. Feel it alone? I want kids. I'll just make some kids. Kids. And I got kids. Vision is gone. That's magic. Used for evil. Let's fast forward to multiverse events.
Spoilers, just spoilers.
Yeah.
All right, but she did some things. She sent some demons out to grab American shotguns. It's in the trailer. That's what it is. matter. Now, these demons were indiscriminately destroying things, indiscriminately killing people. Anybody can get it, you ignore it. Is that America? If I go back to this room, you get to America, you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it, Red Church getting it, Joker and Joker, y'all get it, everybody's getting it. Selfish. She decided to take over a multiverse version of herself. It's still her kids. Those are not your kids, ma'am. And last time I checked, stealing was a crime. It's also really selfish to say something that's not yours. She does not have an ounce of integrity. And with all her powers, she could have easily tried to negotiate. She could have easily incapacitated people that she was going through. But did she? No. I won't spoil what happens to the Inhumans, but it was there. Yeah. I rest my case.
It's so interesting, as the only one dressed up as the Scarlet Witch tonight, that you would come at me so hard. What I would say is, as, as Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, says to Doctor Strange, you break the rules and become a hero. I do it and I become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair. And she's 100% right. I support women's rights, but even more so, I support women's wrongs. Absolutely. The Scarlet Witch has experienced a tremendous amount of loss and grief, losing her parents, losing her brother Pietro, and the Vision. It's grief, if not love, persevering. As we saw in the Mother's Day classic film, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and that is a Mother's Day film, no matter what anybody tells you. She has determination to get back to Billy and Tommy, no matter what. She's a protector. She is protecting her ideal world at all costs. And honestly, I think she is a little bit selfless. I mean, she did leave Reed Richards' wife to take care of the kids. She left those kids a mother. I think that's pretty selfless. And I think because she destroyed every version of the Darkhold and demolished the castle up top on River Mountain, she was pretty selfless. And I think she is the strongest Avenger. I think she could do it.
I can just have just one quick second. Just one quick second. You said that she's grieving and she lost her
Absolutely.
her brother and her folks, and it's all that, right? Has anybody seen a Disney movie? Dumbo, he didn't go crazy. Right? He lost so Mufasa. He didn't go crazy. And his mom got shot and then he dead. Baby couldn't go forth.
Well, all well are you? And we have another possibility up here too. Some of me want to think that his job as friend perhaps is worthy. Might that be?
I'm here to argue that Gus Fring is a villain that I believe does have the traits that will enable him to look beyond. First of all, Gus Fring is a leader, both for growing the different business franchise in the Spoilers of August, with great curly fries, and the drug cartel. He is enormously successful in both of these endeavors. He is determined to get revenge against the Salamancas for the death of Max, and to run his own drug empire free from the cartel. It takes him 20 years of careful, meticulous planning in the death of Max, but he eventually does see Bolsa, Eladio, and all the other cartel leaders dead, even ingesting himself the poison tequila before offering it to the other cartel leaders. He has an immense sense of self-worth. He always displays a sense of cool, calm collectedness, impeccably dressed at all times, unfailingly polite to customers at his restaurants, a generous philanthropist. He places a great deal of level of importance upon himself. He is valued to himself. He protects those people he views as loyal to him. He's not a psychopath like the Salamanca family. He treats his Polos Hermanos employees fairly and earns their respect and loyalty. He pays for Gale's vacation and is furious when Walt has him killed. Even Jesse, at some point, becomes loyal to Gus. He prevents Mike from killing Hector Salamanca, and rather turning him later after Mike has done the damage to his business. No, he grooms him to become his enforcer and right-hand man. When Mike openly disagrees with him regarding Nacho's dad, he doesn't have him killed, but listens to him because he values his input. He allows part of the security he's paying for to keep watch over Mike's daughter-in-law and kid, despite the fact they have stretched thin looking to love him. He has a sense of integrity because he lives by his own set of values and sticks closely to them. He is upfront to those he views as loyal to him and does not lie to them. He is selfless because he does not hoard his wealth like the other cartel leaders, but invests a large portion of it into the surrounding community. He's also very generous to those who work for him. Saul Goodman will become a very rich man. Mike will also benefit from his largesse to the point that when he's about to die, he tells Walt, "We had a good thing going here until you came along." His earnings may come from the drug trade, but he openly shares the wealth with those who work for him and the surrounding community. And now, I believe there's someone who has the opposite opinion.
Yeah, I would say so. Frame, are you with a hammer? No, Chris, not even close. Gus Frame is debonair, clever, powerful. I admire his smart way of dressing in calm air. He is also a very bad man. You point out that he consistently attains his goals and he builds his empire. True. But consistency is not integrity. One can instead point out that his single-minded achievements of goals is the same obsessiveness as any sociopath. Yes, as a leader, he showed great loyalty to his minions. That is, until he killed them. As was learned by the German engineer Werner Ziegler after running away to visit his wife. And even his most loyal Victor in Breaking Bad when he made one mistake and saw his death on the floor of the Met Factory.
If I could weigh in very quickly. Giancarlo Esposito was here this weekend, and Chris and I both got the chance to meet him, and he did confirm to both of us that he thinks Gus would be able to lift the hammer. So take that for what
My rebuttal to you would be that there's a difference between obsessive, as you mentioned, and determination. Obsessive begins with an irrational behavior. An obsessive man would have drunk the poison himself, content to see the others die with him. But Gus has planned everything, including having Dr. Goodman's clinic set up so he can go there after he vomits the poison so he can recover. This meticulous planning and patience is the opposite of obsessive. But I can see we are not going to agree, so perhaps the best course of action is we better call Saul.
I can go on and on about this. I'm sure maybe the panel can. However, we want to now hear from the audience, you all out there. You may have heard something we should comment on, and we'd like you to do that, especially if there's a villain you believe is worthy to lift the hammer. Unfortunately, we don't have microphones, so if you have a comment, you'd love to hear it, please stand up and speak as loud as possible. I'll point out who it is. There's a little here with the red hat. I'll start with that person.
Hi. So I wanted to comment on the one Maximoff, whether I personally think she isn't able to wield the hammer right now, but when she went, she survives the dark world destruction. She very likely could, because I don't believe, we've seen that Thor has made some really bad calls on himself. He almost committed genocide in Thor 1 when trying to destroy all of the Frost Dragons because he was offended. And then where she killed hundreds of people. Westview, she made mistakes because the grief drove her to madness. And the same thing happened in Multiple Madness. So I think that when she realized what she was doing and she realized I can't do this, I can't kill my other version and take Tommy and Billy away from their mom, and I can't kill America Chavez. I think that at that point when she sacrifices herself, I think at that point she is worthy or will be worthy when she survives.
Strong points, strong points. Expert panel, your thoughts real quick?
Yes. Yeah, I think you can make bad decisions and then come back and be, like we saw with Ford, right? If he couldn't lift it, he went through that hard. When she survives, I think we will see that.
We're gonna go to stay with the red theme, the man in the red ears.
Well, I could say, as far as businessmen, Tony Stark is a more principled businessman than Gus, and we know for a fact that he cannot lift Mjolnir.
Ooh, strong point. I think so, that is a great point. Great.
As far as what worthy means, it seems like worthy means I am Odin's hitman, because Hela could wield Mjolnir.
That's right. Expert thoughts, expert thoughts.
But could she wield it? Or could she just
Isn't that
stop
great say of her wielding Mjolnir?
Doesn't she holds it out and then she destroys it?
No, in Asgard,
In Asgard, I was gonna say it, sure.
We're gonna have our fact checkers check on that, we'll be back in a little while. We're just gonna do a quick, on this side, please, man, right?
This whole quest was a very so I think you could all.
Another strong point, any quick thoughts?
Well played, sir.
Well played.
Well played.
Really agree.
You go over here, I'm gonna go to, go ahead, sir.
I think Severus Street by the end of, the part two. It's beautiful, one thing, and just Baltimore, and with the fact,
I think Ripley is something to say.
Strong agree. Very strong agree.
Good. Dr. Sue, you're very patient? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
One thing, I feel we were rolling through the integrity, because one I was thinking of was Dr. Honors, AKA the Lip, is because here's a guy who's really forced to be on the side, yet his selflessness and his integrity makes him not get his family in the way of her, so that's why he runs with it. Or he's still trying to handle himself. Yeah, looking for leadership academically in the academic purpose. He tries to do that as much as possible while finding a thing to kill for himself. And that's the students like Peter Parker.
Thank you. That was well said. We have time for two more questions. Let's go back to this side, anything on this side of the room? And if not, we'll go back here. In the back there, sir?
Yeah, I saw Anakin and Darth Vader. I think it's kind of in the same vein as her answer and your answer. It's not that it's a villain who wields it. It's at the very end, he realizes, this is my son. Somebody's killing my kid. It's not about power. It's not about anything. I put forth that at the end, if he lifted his arm, he could grab him and knock the shit out of the Emperor for making a fool out of him trying to kill his kid. He couldn't him. Which, and again, at the end, I think Luke was never the chosen one, even though that's the point, that's the picture they painted in Empire and in Return of the Jedi, Return of the Chosen One. That moment, he could have wielded Mjolnir and brought peace to the galaxy, not order to the galaxy, peace to the galaxy.
Thank you. The force is still. Okay, last question here, please. Yes.
I would like to propose another question for the qualifications for Rick Mjolnir. I would propose righteousness and/or ethics, depending on which word you would prefer. And using this qualification, I would reject the idea that Thanos can live Mjolnir because his idea of protection was committing atrocities against billions of people. And I would say that your intentions mean very little the means by which you are achieving your ends are not ethical.
Means does not justify the ends. Well stated. You guys are great. Thank you for everybody's comment. I think we can go all night on this topic because we all have strong opinions, not only about the characters in our favorite movies, comics, books, and in life, but also because of the strong importance of what it means to be worthy. We want to actually recognize your all's participation tonight, so we have some awards to be granted. And the first person to grant the award will be Lance.
So for leadership, first person up to the proverbial mic and propose an idea goes to our lovely Asian guy.
And our next award will be awarded by Chris.
Thank you. And my next award goes to someone who, as he has said before, can do it all day and also is worthy of Mjornir. It would be in all of the multiverses, Captain Carter. May you be worthy.
Melissa, I think you would award here.
I do, and I know he's not up there, but I would like to give my own special award called the Jar Jar Binks Courage Award. And I would like to give to the man in the red shirt who talked about Tony Stark. Listen, I see you, I hear you, and if anyone wants to talk about how Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord, come see me outside, please.
And then we have Becca.
Yes, this is the Britain's Choice Award, because I am really an actor make a choice. And I actually would like to give my award to a really great costume that I've been enjoying right in my live vision in the audience all evening. Yes, lady. Yes, please. Yes.
And I think we want to recognize one more person. They're conferring. This is important.
Well, I believe there is, a final award should and must go to, there is I believe, a master in the audience. A Dragon Ball master, perhaps?
Well, I was thinking cosplay.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
And everyone that was worthy, if you have a couple seconds after we leave to take a quick picture outside of all our worthies, you can hang out, that'd be great.
And to close, we shall have Chris give his final thoughts.
Our final thoughts is thank to all of you for coming to our panel and finding us worthy of your time. You all have within yourselves what is needed to lift those hammer. Just believe in your own self. Thank you very much.